Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and I hope you're doing amazing. So, today I would like to talk about the topic that is how to give an effective feedback so that it really positively impacts the receiver. So, as a giver of feedback, not only our intention is important, but what is more important is the impact that we create as a result of the feedback that we are giving. And as leaders, we do have to take responsibility for a couple of things before we even give a feedback. And so let's dive in and see what are those things that you can sort of pick up. And I'm speaking this from a space where I have been at the receiving end of receiving really great feedback, which has helped me to transform my life. And on the other hand, I also have received, uh, not constructive feedback, which led to lower self esteem, reduced self confidence. And also, I have had the opportunity to give feedback to people while I was in the corporate, and sometimes it landed well, sometimes it didn't. And now, as a coach, one of my job is to give feedback, and this feedback plays a very key role in shaping the person's forward movements and also enables transformation. So let's dive in, right? What are the few things which I have observed and I would like to share with you all. So the number one factor is, first, I'm talking from a space of a giver. Be clear with your intent. Why would you like to give this feedback? Are you coming from a space of venting it out, or do you really want to make a difference in the person's life? If you're clear with that, your intention, that the reason for giving the feedback, then you can move on to the next step. And the next step is make an informed feedback. Feedback shouldn't just be a casual thing. It should be an informed one. You should have facts and certain things that you have observed or certain things that you have noticed about the person. And you believe that if you quote these instances, examples, and then share it with the person would be able to relate to that. So that is very important, having informed giving the feedback after having informed decision. The feedback should never come across too quick or too late. Most of the times what happens is, we all make judgments based on the filters that we use. We sort of make judgments about certain things, and then from that context, it is more of a projection of our judgment to the person rather than a feedback. And feedback is never a judgment. Yes, you can definitely use a gut, you can definitely use your instinct, you can definitely use your hunch to sort of throw certain nuances of the feedback. But then it has to be really informed, and the timing has to be right. It shouldn't be too early, or it shouldn't be too late when nothing can be rectified, but it's just like venting it out and telling the person that you're not doing this good, this, that, and then it lands nowhere. Third is, before even you give a feedback, help the person to connect with his or her strength. You know why this is important? Because even in, like, I recently did this workshop, the psychodrama workshop, and I've completed this module where trauma triangle was like one of the areas where if you want to get into the trauma side of a person, you have to first, give strength to the person to be able to connect with one of his or her strength, to be able to get in touch with that dark side. that side which the person probably is not willing to see or maybe not ready to accept. So whenever you give a feedback, first it's important to connect the person with the strength, that will help them to take the journey deep dive into something, their blind spot, which they're not being able to see. And sometimes, nobody likes a feedback which is negative. A feedback, although it is good intended, although it will really help them in growing forward, nobody likes to hear stuff which is not good for them. So it's important that you connect them with their strength, and then from that space, enable them to see what you want them to see, and that too with an intention of growth for them. Another important thing is be aware of your context. So, as a giver, what is it that you're bringing to the table? Sometimes we bring our own baggages, sometimes we bring our own projections, sometimes our mood is not right, and then we just vent out. Sometimes we just react, sometimes we just give a feedback because it is a norm, it is a part of the routine that has been set. So we have to be very clear about the context from which we are operating. And we have to hold back that context, because here our main focus should be the person in front of us and to whom we are giving the feedback. And once we do that, then it becomes more effective. Another thing is be willing to receive, whatever reactions and whatever way the person behaves when you kind of show them the mirror, right? So know that their reactions, if you have done all of this, their reaction would be their projection. That would be their work to do, right? But you have to hold the space for them to be able to share with you openly that this is what they are not liking it, or this is what they are appreciating it, or this is what they may break down even because the feedback may not be something that they expected. So you have to hold space for them to elicit that ability in them to see what you're trying to show them, right? And feedback doesn't end. Your job, your responsibility as a leader doesn't end just by sharing what you see is working and what you see is not working for them, right? True feedback and its impact and its significance can be measured only once you help the person to whom you have given the feedback to really come up with something constructive, to lay out a plan wherein they can work on the things that is a possibility for them, and also to hone the skills that they're really good at, or anything that you're sharing. So your responsibility as a leader is like enabling what you've shared and then helping them, co-creating with them, sitting with them and co-creating a path which would enable in making that feedback which you've given into a reality wherein they can use that and grow. So always the intent of the leader is very important, and then it will always be well received and it will be impactful. Otherwise it will just be a routine work. And another important point which I want to highlight is that the feedback should be direct. You shouldn't beat around the bush and try to say something by sugarcoating it or trying to convey something which you don't mean and hoping that the other person will understand and expect. That's not a feedback. That is something then you have to do the work on yourself, that you are unable to give a feedback to the person in a direct way. So the feedback has to be direct. You have to convey it in a way that it's understood, but with kindness and compassion. It doesn't have to be rude. It doesn't have to sound like something authoritative or an instructive thing that, okay, this is what it is and you need to do that. It doesn't have to be that. It can be given directly with compassion and love. And when you exude that energy, the other person will catch it. So next time when you give a feedback and if it hasn't landed well on the other person, do ask this question as a leader: where can I take the responsibility? And then if you do that work on yourself, the next time you give a feedback, you will see there's an improvement. And for those who are receiving the feedback, there's nothing to be taken personally. There's nothing to really make a mess out of it, because feedback, if it is received well, and if you genuinely understand the crux and context of that, then definitely you can use it to improve. And sometimes you will definitely find people who would just blurt out whatever the judgments that they have to make. In that case, you can just tell them, thank you for sharing. And then you may not invest more energy in that, because you will know from which space that is coming from, right? So these are the things which I can think of as of now. And if you implement that, then I think feedback, giving and receiving feedback would be a wonderful mechanism, a developmental tool which can be co-created by both the receiver and the giver, and it can be used for a person's growth and development. And yes, that's it. And feedback given wisely can transform a person's life, and feedback which is not intended well can really ruin a person's life. And we got to take the responsibility and ask ourselves which side we are standing onto. Until next, take care. Love you all, and have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.